It's a tribute to the Moshe Sklar, who I personally knew. He lived in Kensington, that's near Borough Park where I live. But I remember that Moshe at the Fabrengens in the 1970s, 80s, many times I would see him sitting at the Fabrengen with his talus on him. Most Chassidim, almost all, didn't have talesim. They're talking about the married ones. They finished davening. Rabbi Moshe was an Oved. He davened barichas for many hours, And when the Rebbe farbrengt, of course, he wanted to be at the farbrengen. So he would finish davening right before the farbrengen and come to his place and sit there with his talus. That's my recollection. Rabbi Moshe was a Yid that davened and memorized the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimorim. I discussed this with him once. I believe he told me that he might have had a hero from the Rebbe, instruction from the Rebbe to do so. And Bechlal, he was a Yid that was through and through Lubavitch. Although he married, his wife wasn't technically from a Chabad Lubavitch home. She was the daughter of Rav Shor, who was the replacement of the Malach, and who learned Chasidishe for hours, and I believe David Nusachadi, but it was a different style. Moshe kept the minhagim, the old-time fashioned minhagim of Lubavitch to the T. Yutas Kislev came, Yud Shvat, the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Bosilegani. He was a Chasidishe Chosid, from an old-time Chosid. And when I was a Rav of a shul for a while in Flatbush in the late 90s, he would come and he would ask, can he say a Vort Chasidishe? He would like to say over a Vort from a Sicha or a Maimer, and I said, sure. He had that feeling of Chasidishe. Of course, he came from an illustrious father, Eliyahu Nochum Sklar, who was a chassid of the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and I believe even the Rebbe Rashab. He was one of the people that did underground work for the Frierdiker Rebbe, together with such chassidim like Rebbe Mendel Futterfass, Rebbe Tzia Shemtov, Rebbe Zalman Serebransky, and others, many others. And there's many letters and details in Toldos Chabad, Russia. Take a look over there. So he had a few daughters, and he had this son, Reb Moshe. I think he was a Ben Yochid of Rebbe. Yeah. One of the other things that stands out is that I would see him walking, where there's an older man, he would walk to this Lubavitch shul, that Lubavitch shul. He had shuls next to him, but he dafka wanted to daven in a Lubavitch shul. One of his sons, maybe I think his oldest son, was passed on already. He was like a genius. He had a photographic memory. I think his name was Aaron, and it's supposed to mention him. We remember him as a little boy, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, chazering over word for word the Rebbe's farbrengens, and wherever the Rebbe coughed, he would stop and cough. That's the type of zikar and memory he had. He then went on to learn Shas and Mifal HaShas, so that the Kloisenberger have, and I think he learned the entire Shas. One of the other sons who I know, Shmuel, he's Shamish in the shul on Avenue F and not Dayhill, forget what street. It's right next to Borough Park. Al Koponim, and he had many children. They should all have comfort, and they should know that where they come from. They come from a grandfather, Nochum, and they come from a son, and come from a Moshe Sklar. The Moshe Sklar was a Chasidishe Yid from Namo. He also, by the way, he was in 770, in the early years, in the 50s. I think he told me he was there when the Rebbe said the famous Shabbos HaGodel, Parshas Shmini, they call it Shabbos HaGodel, after Pesach, they don't verbring till 7 o'clock, I believe. He was there as a young boy, well, a young teenager. And he later went to learn by Reb Shlomo Chaim, and he said how Reb Shlomo Chaim made a great impact on him, and that's where he really formed his Avodas Hashem, davening bariches, and the Chazar and Maimer, and Chazan Chasidishe. That was an Iker. I remember in Beis Menachem years ago, 25 years ago, Shabbos afternoon, and everyone left already after the Kiddush, and after the only one who was left in shul was Rabbi Moshe Sklar. And he would sit and daven, and you can hear him davening. Yeah, it's a relic of the past, Rabbi Say, but in the Moshe, darf man sich der Monnen and of these type of people, and may he bring take comfort to everyone. V'kitzer Anu Sheikh Nafra, v'hu b'techem, Moshe b'reb Eliyahu Nochum, sein a gute Bette for the whole Mishpacha, and for Klal Yisrael and Klal Chassidim, Adas Chassidim, and take bring the Mashiach, seit in Psudas Tevis.